Good morning to our friends on the West Coast. I'm Roz Billups, the Executive Director of Open Access, and I want to welcome you all to our live today. We're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and we have a great treat for you today. We have our co-founder and two of our alumni fellows here to speak with you about their experiences in the fellowship program at Open Access, and also just really their personal heritage, how they got into the space where they currently work in community development finance, and really how open access has helped to bridge the gap from where they are to where they're going in their career. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. I want to introduce to you first one of our co-founders of Open Access. And for those of you who don't know, Open Access is a fellowship program. Our mission is to increase diversity of Latin and Black professionals in community development finance at every stage. So I want to bring to the stage first Jeff Monge. Jeff, can you tell the people a little bit about yourself and how Open Access began?
Yep. Again, Jeff Monge. I am managing partner of Monge Capital. We're a real estate capital advisory firm located in downtown Newark. We do national work. We've probably done about over $2 billion worth of structured finance transactions throughout the country with the mission of doing good and doing well. So everything that we do is really focused on social impacts. As well as economic returns for investors on business transactions. Being in the space on our, through Mohe Capital, we've been in the space for 15 years. Prior to that, I was 10 years in private equity, focused on just investing in low income communities, again, with the double bottom line of social impacts and economic returns. And then prior to that, I was actually in community development, which is where I cut my teeth in real estate, commercial real estate in particular, as well as social investing. Um, the genesis of open access was really that, when you're working in the local grassroots level, there's a lot of diversity in that space, but a lot of the capital sources that come in to these communities, and we try to work with the tools that are provided to us, as well as a lot of the decision making on the policy side, as 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 I stepped into the corporate America and then on my own as an entrepreneur, as you go to the larger stage of where the decisions are happening, where the capital is coming from, the diversity of that stage, it doesn't reflect the diversity of the communities that we serve. And seeing that for quite some time, myself and Gina Nesbitt, who's our co-chair and co-founder of Open Access, we talked about it, deliberated on it over many years, and then ultimately during the pandemic, while folks were trying to do different things and figuring out how to speak different languages and learn how to make different drinks, we were sitting there trying to come up with an idea on how to launch a 501c3 that would really speak to creating a professional fellowship with training and networking and creating an inroad to this fascinating world and very fulfilling world of community development finance. And as far as background, I'm Puerto Rican, born and raised in the Bronx. Spent time as a kid in Puerto Rico, and that was very impactful to me to be able to be in Puerto Rico, beautiful island. Everybody's Puerto Rican, right? The cops, the lawyers, Bogadero, everybody is Puerto Rican. And then we had to come over and migrate over to the Bronx. And here I am with my abuelita, and we're in the housing projects and Bronx River projects in the Bronx, and just the difference, the contrast of being on the island and having that sense of independence and the like, even though it's not truly independent per se, right? But then coming to the community in the Bronx and not really having a say, not really having driving, who owns the real estate, who runs the capital, was really really eye opening to me, and really was one of the main reasons why I got into community development finance, because I knew that there had to be a better way. And now I'm finding it through the work that I do in trying to empower people of color in communities of color that are underserved and underrepresented.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, Jeff. That's fantastic. It's great to hear how you're able to translate your upbringing and to really go and make an impact. So now I want to introduce one of our alumni fellows, Ari Paz. Ari, can you come up to the stage and introduce yourself? Tell everyone what you do for work, and then give us a little bit about your origin as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ariana Paz, and I go by Ari. My aunt started calling me that, and it kind of just stuck. I'm a project manager in construction and commercial real estate. I was part of the 2022 cohort with Jonathan, and I can say it helped me get through COVID. It gave me something to do, it gave me a network, a social group to make it through COVID because I was already working from home. But once things shut down, it was just completely different. But I opened my firm Vamos, it's Let's Go in Spanish, in Dallas. And after working with a national retail developer, I recognized the gap in services for Hispanic contractors. And I knew I wanted to support small firms and organizations with various aspects of construction and commercial real estate. So that's what I've been doing for the past few years. My background is I'm Mexican American. My mom is from Durango, Mexico, and my dad is from Guanajuato, Mexico, two beautiful states that I highly encourage you to visit. My mom emigrated to Dallas when she was 15, and she worked as a tomato packer. She later gained her citizenship through the Violence Against Women Act and worked her way up to corporate. When I was 13, she opened a tortilla shop because there wasn't a place nearby. And being Mexican, we need our fresh tortillas every day. So I was working there every day from starting in middle school. I didn't have a lot of extracurricular activities because we had the business to run in order to keep the lights on. But I'm grateful for this experience because it inspired me to pursue entrepreneurship and commercial real estate in my 20s. Um, Growing up with a family business, I never really thought I would pursue this because of the challenges we went through. Um, but I knew I wanted to do something about Hispanic businesses today going through the same thing. And after being blessed with having that experience early on, living in Dallas and taking advantage of all the opportunity we had, it kind of led me to do what I'm doing now. And I'm really happy about being here today because there aren't a lot of spaces where we can share these stories, where we can talk about how we got started and be genuine about how those experiences led us to where we are.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing, Ari. It is important that we do have a space where we can be genuine in our authentic selves and really understand that, who we are, that's who we're going to be and show up as every day. So it's important that we get to share that. And so now I'm going to bring up Jonathan, also one of our alumni fellows from 2022, Jonathan Lopez over there early on the West Coast. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about what you do currently and how that's brought you to the space of community development finance.
Yeah, of course. Well, good morning, everyone. Afternoon, as well. It's almost 12 p.m. on the East Coast. But a little bit about myself. I'm Jonathan, currently an associate at Genesis LA. Genesis LA is a CDFI here in LA County. We primarily do real estate lending to community projects here in LA County. My path of how I got to community development is very, I would say, unique. I kind of grew up right by USC, so in South Central, is better known, across the states. And there was always terms going around of new projects for the community. And as a kid, I was always wondering, like, okay, who is behind these projects? And I always loved giving back, whether it was simply just translating to parents in the community or giving back, through cleaning up the community. And there's always that lack of facility space. And especially now, let's say 2016, 2017, right before I went to college, rents were going up and there was a term of affordable housing. And those two in hand, I was wondering, okay, how are those get made? So during my undergrad at Riverside, I just spent 4 years doing nonprofit work and internships and jumping all over the place. And I landed in real estate somehow at a commercial firm. And at that firm, I realized the nuances of development, or I got to learn the complexity of it. And realizing how complex it was, I realized, hey, I could maybe fit into this. I am the first one in my family to do real estate in any shape or form. My family comes from actually working in a warehouse in Ontario, so I didn't get that experience or mentorship. So a lot of it was connecting to people, just whether it was my classmates, whether it was my peers, or just people I met online. Same way with Ari. By the time I graduated, I knew I wanted to join into this field, but I just tried to figure out how. And at my old firm, I got referred to Project REAP, and I actually did the Project REAP. It's a wonderful program. It's a real estate associate program online, and I got to be familiar with the different sides of development. And from there, I got to learn about open access. And open access here, when I joined back in class of 22 as well, it was that perfect opportunity to really realize the work that not only Genesis LA doing, but just community development. Real estate's such a huge field we could spend hours talking about, but this little specific work and open access did a wonderful job in giving access to all this information and more uncertainty, knowing that there's so many different approaches, done. You heard from my wonderful co-host Ari about her experience with the entrepreneur side. At Genesis LA, it's much more of the partnerships and figuring that out to make these projects work. And for me, this opportunity of community development, being in the field now, managing the impact of our loans and our projects, is just a wonderful experience, and just really excited to be here and talk more about it.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing, Jonathan. You mentioned something that was really important to us as an organization. You talked about mentorship, and that's really one of the three pillars that the fellowship is built on. It's having a mentor, and really what open access does, it really creates that bridge for a lot of professionals to either get into community development finance, because it's a very broad space, but when we focus on tax credits financing and careers around that, is very niche. And in addition to that, folks who are already in the space, it really gives them access to mentorships, to networking opportunities for them to move up and expand their careers. So if you can just give us a little bit about the experience that you had while in the fellowship.
Yeah, of course. I will say before anything, this field of community development, like any other field, there is a huge learning curve of it. I joke around, one of the first things I did here was understanding what a project was and how let's just use the capital stack and it's very confusing at times, but for me, I would say the big value of mentorship was being able to not only work with my peers, but also work here in staff. So the open access, they did a wonderful job here at Genesis of having a dedicated staff member. In this case, I had one of the loan officers work with me, kind of go over what the project entailed, sit with me and going step by step. And it was very helpful to understand that, yes, this is there's a lot of confusing materials, especially even coming from a real estate kind of similar background. I got that support directly, just being able to ask here. Both my fellowship was in person, but being able to just ask around and even just follow up virtually as well as my peers, having the training workshops we have, having the panelists as well was really helpful. To just reach out as well, just a simple email, a simple Slack message that we have to go ask for that help. So I would say mentorship played a huge role.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll bring it up Ari again. So with you being based in Texas, can you tell us a little bit about your experience during the fellowship, especially because we did launch during COVID? How was that for you?
I learned about open access on LinkedIn. I think one of my friends had also gone through Project REAP, similar to Jonathan, and he shared the application with me, and it just looked really interesting. I work with small businesses that need capital for equipment like heavy construction equipment, vehicles, acquiring land to develop, or building a warehouse for their construction material. And I hadn't been exposed to too many parts of like underwriting, financing, besides helping Spanish speakers fill out applications. Jonathan mentioned translation, how at an early age, we could be 3 or 5, as long as we can speak, we have to start translating for our parents. It could be anything from, hey, call the insurance guy and get a quote, or the neighbor asked if you can help him fill out a permit application. Those early experiences that come from the need of our parents not being too familiar with the language or being able to follow municipal requirements. It's a huge challenge in Dallas, but also other geographies. I've worked in Oklahoma and I see the same thing there. But with the amount of development going on in Dallas, there's a lot of opportunity, but challenges with local municipalities really hurt small businesses. It's been tough to admit that I made a business out of helping Hispanic contractors, but they need help, filling out their paperwork, communicating with city staff, following up on the progress of a project with the vendors or the customers they're working with. So giving them access to capital, helping them secure financing was something that I wanted to learn more about, because cash flow gets tight if they're not getting permits, then they're not starting work, therefore not getting paid. So I was working with Capital Impact Partners. They were my host organization, and it really shows the quality partners that Open Access brings on, because they had just come to the Dallas market. They're based in Detroit. They've been operating for about 40 years. They're a national CDFI, and they have a very popular program called Equitable Development Initiative. It's a 4-month training program for developers of color, and they were bringing the program to Dallas. So when I started working with them as a fellow, they asked me what I wanted to learn. Like, what do you want to do with us? What can we teach you? And I said underwriting. I want to see loan applications for people that were not approved. Like, what factors led to that? So we did like an assessment on different factors that disqualified borrowers, and that led to them offering more flexible financing now. One of their newest products is diversity and development, and it offers much more flexible terms for those small developers that are just getting started. But it was truly an amazing experience because it was hybrid. So we worked remotely, but they also had a new staff member in Dallas that I connected with, and we're still in touch today. We grab coffee every now and then because I've kind of adopted him as a mentor, and it led to me also being retained as a program advisor to help them launch and run the program last year. So it really exposed me to programming as well, which is something I've been wanting to learn more about. Mm-hmm. So now I've been doing more program management work instead of just the usual project management for construction sites.
Wonderful. So it sounds like your experience, just like Jonathan's, went from being a fellow to actually being placed and doing work, in business with your fellowship provider, which has been the story for a lot of our fellows. So kudos to both of you. And I want to just acknowledge the folks that are here in the chat and with us on LinkedIn Live. Gabriel Troncoso, thank you so much for joining. I know that you got the invite from Jeff. And also Francini, she said that she also used to work with merchants, and she understands the cycle of needing capital to do land procurement as well. So wonderful. And I do want to bring it back to our co-founder, Jeff Monge, really quick. A lot of folks may not know what community development finance is, let alone what new markets tax credits are. Can you give us some education around what CDFIs are, and in particular, new market tax credits? What is that?
Yeah, without complicating life with new market tax credits, but it is important to say that the thought process of open access did come out of the new market tax credit industry, and new market tax credits is a federal program to help revitalize underserved communities nationwide. But there are, that's one tool per se of a very large tool case of different financing tools to help revitalize communities, underserved communities. So there's low income housing tax credits, for instance, that focuses on affordable housing. There's historic tax credits, which is really focused on historic buildings, historic preservation. It's ways to be able to take tax credits to largely corporate investors and basically monetize that into project financing to bridge feasibility. The as far as community development as a whole, I normally start off a lot of the intros on open access and being very, very blunt. And I've done this, in Project REAP as well as in others when I discuss the idea of community development. I kind of take it, obviously very personal. I think Adi and Jonathan, take it the same way. It's not just a job. It's not just a check coming in. It is our give back. It is essentially, I feel our responsibility, frankly, that we've been able to take the steps forward to have the capacity to be able to do this type of work and to be able to make a living, which is great, but also to be able to give back to the community that we came from, because not all of us gets this far, right? So we do have that responsibility, and I think and again, bluntly, if you're approaching open access, don't look at it as because hey, I could, it's a paid internship, a paid fellowship, and I could, it's what I could get, what I could get. It's a two-way street, right? It's what you could give, what you could give as well. And if you come to that with that thought process, then you're going to succeed here. You're going to be able to use this as a great platform for whatever you want to do, whether it be a developer, have your own business or work with an organization, organizations in the space. Yeah, Roz, you had mentioned CDFI lenders, community development finance institutions. They are certified essentially to be able to put together capital sources and the like, and specifically focus on investing in businesses and projects that offer community impact to low-income communities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for explaining that to everyone, Jeff. And, it is so important to be able to give back and to have the opportunity. And I feel that, once you go through the open access program as a fellow, at least it was my experience and a lot of my peers, is that you do feel empowered. And now you have the tools to actually go ahead and make a difference. So I want to bring Ari back up. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact open access has had on your career and the difference in what you're doing now?
I had been managing construction projects, permitting, land development, infrastructure improvements for the past 4 years. And I was honestly starting to get bored with it. Every day was different, but I'm always looking for what else can I learn to support more businesses as they're scaling. And I've talked to businesses in Colombia, Peru, Mexico, who are wanting to come to the US. And I've worked with an investor who received his investor's visa and acquired real estate here. He bought some businesses. So I knew I really wanted to learn more about financing. And through Capital Impact, Open Access, I learned about other events that I did not know existed. And it led me to really learn more about the products out there for this different pool of borrowers. So the training that we received as well from Novogradic on underwriting, that was really helpful in understanding the loan process. So it helped me build a better skill set in that area to represent others that are struggling to approach lenders on their own. And then it also helped me transition from project management to program management. I want to share everything I know to help other businesses avoid some of the challenges that myself or my clients have gone through. And we're doing that by hosting training programs. It could be a one-day workshop or a 2-week program where we walk business owners through filing your LLC, registering with the city as a contractor, getting insured, bonded, understanding the permitting process, and getting financing for your project, building a proposal, pitching to lenders. And it's been very rewarding to see that, because when we're starting, it seems very small, like, just the little information you have. But these programs have really helped a lot of them pursue projects. And as it relates to due diligence, a lot of that information, even permitting applications in many municipalities with a high population of Spanish speakers, they still don't have documentation in Spanish. And they need someone to, come in and make sure that they understand what they're filling out, what they're signing. So it did a lot for me. I can keep going on, but as a small business owner, it really exposed me to the bigger picture to be able to help more small businesses.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for saying that. And it's so important because even businesses, when they're looking to get financing or looking to, secure government contracts, there are so many little things that have to be done, as far as the bonding and responding to RFPs and all those, little things with the municipality. So it's wonderful to have someone to guide them through that process. So Jonathan, I'll come back to you. Can you tell us about your experience in the fellowship, and really what difference has that made now that you graduated from the Open Access program?
So I will say I had a response to this question. However, after Jeff kind of gave a little spiel about the importance of the work of community development, I decided to kind of change it a bit. I think after thinking about it again, the biggest impact they had in my own career was just realizing that there is a space where I could find people that look like me, and the work that we're doing actually goes to people that look like me or are a similar background to of me in the own community. And it might sound minor, but realizing the huge differences in the field itself, going back to the area I work with, primarily majority of my community is Hispanic. A lot of Central Americans just up the block in MacArthur Park, a lot of the Mexican American community to the east side. And a lot of the time there's a huge gap, whether it's simply understanding how something comes to be, and or how something, having a say in the community aspect of it. Where if a new project goes up, use the example of gentrification. It's a huge topic which I'll go into, but oftentimes there's communities, the nearby communities want to have a say in what the project is, and more often than not, there isn't that direct vocal. There's always this piece of going to the city hall or being political advocate, but there's also this part of actually being acquired property or help develop property and have that say too. And I think for me was realizing that I could be in that space in a different angle. And for me, being able to help out local nonprofits, local community developers, often people of color. I know one of our borrowers actually is through development. Being able to have people like Vanessa come in and work with their projects and make these impacts to these communities, whether large projects, through new markets, or these smaller affordable housing units. It just really makes me feel good about the work I'm doing. And I think how Jeff pointed out wonderfully, I'm able to make a living out of it. but then also actually give back. It's that give get kind of mentality, and I'm really grateful to found open access so early on in the career. As Jeff knows, there's always a new deal coming in every area, and being able to look into that, help the lending team with overseeing that was a really cool experience for me, and is really grateful to have this opportunity to be in a career position that I'm able to see these projects go up.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's so wonderful that you say that too, because the Open Access Fellowship runs every spring. So we're actually going to get ready to open up applications on November 1st for our next round for 2024. And so fellows that are accepted into the program have to do at least 160 hours of work at a host organization. So that normally happens through the months of March, April, and May. But applications do open up November 1st. So if you guys listening and you want to be a part of that program and apply, you'll see those updates on LinkedIn. Also, if you're a sponsor or looking to sponsor, you'll also be able to do that through our website and reach out to us. So we're going to wrap up here, but I just want to ask our panelists to just answer one final question for us and really just leave the audience with a little bit of advice. For someone looking to get into this industry, what would you tell them the one thing that they must do?
Well, let me start, right? So, I think that, the industry is extremely broad, right? So it could be from, helping a small mom and pop store to, a 50, $100 million, project, we've worked with Boys and Girls Clubs to Audible's headquarters in downtown Newark, right? So it's a very broad range of avenues to go into. So trying to narrow that as much as possible, I think it's a plus. Two is when we go out with the fellowship sponsors, right? So, fellows go into this pool of applicants. That's the application that you all fill out. Then there are 25 or so firms that are going through all these applications and will interview folks that they want to eventually select. If you get selected, obviously, one or even more interviews, which is awesome, then you have the opportunity really to identify which businesses you would like to work with. But it's really driven on the scope of services that they're looking for, but also what they do, right? So definitely go into this with some understanding of what you think you want to do, and then obviously, hopefully you'll be selected and you'll be able to explore it. And then you have to take advantage of it. There are people that take 100% advantage of it, if not more than that, if possible. And then there are some folks that we have experienced, unfortunately, that have not taken advantage of it. So it's really what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
Absolutely. And Jonathan, what would you say for someone looking to get into the industry? What piece of advice would you leave them with?
I think the biggest piece of advice is always just feel free to reach out, whether it's directly through us through Open Access or organization partnership that are in the field of community development. More often than not, I think as Jeff mentioned, it's a very wide range of areas of entry, but then the networks are all very similar. So it's always good to reach out to ask questions if there's regarding it's simply applying to Open Access or learning more about a specific focus. Being able to reach out is a huge tool. And the biggest thing also is just to be willing to, I think that Jeff mentioned as well, to actually just be able to accept the program and understand the complexity of it. It's very challenging. I won't deny that, but I think there's a wonderful support network here, and being able to, I think it just willing to learn this information. I think that's a huge thing. I know new market is a very complex thing, which you could spend days, if not years, talking about it. But it is just a very good way it's a really good way to get into this field of community development.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something really good too. For any of the folks listening that want to reach out, you can send a message directly on LinkedIn to any one of our panelists, specifically Ari and Jonathan as graduated fellows. They'll be able to follow up with you if you have any additional questions about the application and how the fellowship experience is. And we'll close it out with Ari. Can you leave us with one bit of advice for the folks listening that are interested into getting into the industry?
Be open-minded and learn as much as you can without seeking immediate return. The best things take a while to, come to fruition or show you that the hard work was worth it. Um, Join fellowships, board seats, find mentors, of course, network, read books, listen to podcasts. To me, these have been the most rewarding, and a lot of the things that we don't learn in a college or university setting come from these opportunities, and many times they're at no cost to us. Uh, all of these resources have helped me stay up to date with market trends and be able to carry conversations locally and internationally. I'm working with a foundation in Mexico as an advisor, just a volunteer position. And even though I don't live in Mexico, I'm giving back to, the country that my parents are from. So you don't have to drive somewhere to help out or make a difference if you really want to.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Well, guys, thank you again so much for your time today and spending your lunch hour with us, some of us your breakfast hour. I hope that this was impactful. I know for me, I learned a bit about each one of you even more, and just seeing the impact that open access has had on you as individuals and the experience that you were afforded is just fantastic. And so that is our panel for today. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everyone. I'm going to give you the rest of your day back. Enjoy it and be well.
Thank you.